Are we recording? Yeah. All right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the October meeting of the Colorado Hydrogen Network. I've got the agenda up there. We've got I have a lot of small things to go over, coming events. We've also got some folks from the University of Colorado and Genevieve Sauer at NREL to talk about the capstone project. And then there's been some energy kind of related to hydrogen, but energy things in the news, which I'm calling tech talk here. So we'll talk about those as we have time. And I do have us down for 1 hour today. Normally, when we're an hour and a half, I stick to that real carefully, but we may decide to run over a little bit if we get into some discussion on some of this tech talk stuff. But first of all, let me talk about some of the events that are going on. The big one that's coming up, what is this, late next week on the 30th and 31st, is this so-called Hydrogen Mountain Retreat, which is being presented by CRAD Enterprise Partners up in Boulder. And this is their second annual event. And I'm really pleased that they've allowed CHN, myself, to be involved in this. This is by invitation only. But I've been asked to lead a discussion about geologic hydrogen. And this is really a subject that I think is super important. I think this is going to be a very, very powerful energy source in the future of any kind, whether it's clean or otherwise. I did put up a list of attendees here. This is a bit of an eye chart, but I highlighted a few. We can see Honda is going to be there, Toyota is going to be there, Gold Hydrogen, which has changed their name to Eclipse Energy. We'll talk about that a little bit, but they are doing microbe injection into oil wells to generate hydrogen, which is an exciting technology. We'll be there. Fortescue is going to be there. High Reveal, that company is doing basically data kind of research and so forth on hydrogen wells. And our friend Vyacheslav Zagonik is with them. So that's an important company. Toda mentioned that. New Day Hydrogen is going to be there. Buford Bar will be there as well. And Sun Hydrogen, which I'm going to talk about, they're doing direct solar to hydrogen conversion. So anyway, a very, I think, prestigious group of people. It's going to be a real good opportunity for us all to kind of network and do some things. I know CRAD's planning on doing a special presentation or maybe discussion is a better word about trying to get some hydrogen fueling and things going here in Colorado. So kudos to them for putting this on. This is really a fantastic 2-day event. All right. The other thing I wanted to talk about, this is a little bit far afield. I've mentioned this a couple of meetings back, is this Hydrogen Technology Expo in Europe. If you find yourself in Germany, possibly, you might want to consider that. A little bit closer to home, the Flying High Conference. This is Hydrogen for Aviation. This will be an online event, and I think the charge is only $30. So perhaps some of us want to participate in that. I plan on being on that call. The Colorado Rural Electric Association every year has their Energy Innovation Summit, and this year they've asked me to moderate a panel discussion on that, and so I'll be there. That is a little bit more expensive. I've forgotten the cost, but check that out if you're interested. That's on November 3rd up in Westminster. ClimateCon, another event that I've been asked to moderate a panel discussion at. This is next year. This is February 2nd in 2026. But there is an early bird rate for the first 50 applicants, so you may want to check that out. This RE Plus Charge H2 is coming up. This is going to be in Seattle, so obviously some travel involved in that, but that's November 19th and 20th. I'm not sure now that their hub has been shut down financing-wise up there, how that impact. I think the event's still going on, but obviously the discussion is probably going to change a little bit around that. But wanted you all to be aware of that. And you can see the registration is up here. And then lastly, next year, this is not till May, but I wanted to give you early warning on this. This is an event that I attended this past year in September down in Houston. drilling for hydrogen. So this is all about geologic hydrogen as well, which obviously you can see this is a big subject that kind of focusing on right now. So check that out. I'll let you know once we know more about the event and the agenda and where to register and things like that. That information is not out yet. All right. So as I said, we've got some folks from the University of Colorado, CU, up in Boulder, to talk about the Capstone project. And Genevieve Sauer is also here. She's with NREL, Senior Research Engineering Analyst in hydrogen area. And what they're going to tell you what the Capstone project is, but just as way of an introduction, this is a um, required collaborative project which is done in partnership with public, private, and nonprofit organizations. So um, this is part of the University of Colorado environmental degree, the Masters of the Environment, and as I said, their partner is NREL. So with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen and let the folks from Capstone tell us all about that.
Hi, so I'm actually going to be the one introducing the project. I was in the program. I actually graduated, and the reason I am introducing the team is because I helped create this project between my graduate researcher position at NREL as well as the master's program I attended. Um, I'll share my screen real quick, and let's see.
So I think everybody can see your name, Olivia, but you're obviously Olivia Robinson. So thank you for presenting.
Of course, I'll go into slideshow. So, yes, today I'll be introducing the CU Boulder MENV program in their capstone, Enhancing Community Acceptance of Hydrogen Infrastructure. The student team at CU is Shafali Chandra, Peyton Furr, and Cass Mendoza, and they've been amazing in this position and the work that they've done. And we partnered with an industry business, New Day Hydrogen, Seth Terry and Buford Barr. And then the NREL team includes William Butner, Genevieve Soar, and myself. So what the CU Boulder MENV program or capstone really is a collaborative project completed in partnership with a public, private, or nonprofit organization to provide graduate students with real-world application-based projects embedded within the context of the organization's sustainability needs and capabilities. This particular capstone was really focused on addressing hydrogen deployment barriers surrounding fear and concerns about hydrogen safety and misinformation so that stakeholders are able to make informed energy choices for their area. This was supported by NREL's HSR&D program, the Hydrogen Safety Research and Development Program, with AOP funding from DOE's Hydrogen Fuel Cell Technologies Office. And we want to say a special thank you to Laura Hill for all of her support as we've worked on this. The industry partner, New Day Hydrogen, was selected to provide a relevant real-world case study as they have planned 3 hydrogen refueling stations along I-25 in Fort Collins, Denver, and Pueblo, as this is a major trucking corridor. And without further ado, I'll hand this off to the students and let them talk about their work that they did this summer.
All right. Thank you so much, Olivia. My name is Peyton. My partners, Cass and Shafali, helped us or helped this project of enhancing community acceptance of hydrogen fuel and infrastructure. Again, want to recognize that this work was performed under the NREL APUP agreement. And with the support from DOE Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technologies Office, this wouldn't have been possible. If we go to the next slide. So again, going back over our project collaborators, we had NREL's Hydrogen Safety Research and Development team serving as the technical advisors on this project, along with New Day Hydrogen, Seth Terry and Buford Barr as our industry partners who are looking to develop hydrogen fueling stations on the Front Range. And so our target community was the Denver site location right at that 80216 corridor where I-76, I-70, and I-25 hit. So a lot of heavy trucking in that area. This is an actual picture from that area. There's a lot of smog and a lot of industrial use in that area. So that's where they're looking to establish their station. And the graduate student team, us three, will go kind of more in depth into the MENV program itself.
Yeah, so a little bit of background about the MENV program. It stands for Masters of the Environment. It's a 2 years professional master's program offered through CU Boulder. Um, the program offers 5 areas of specialization throughout the environment for students to select from, including sustainable food systems, sustainability in the outdoor industry, urban resilience and sustainability, environmental and natural resource policy, as well as renewable and sustainable energy. The summer between your first and second academic year in the program, MENV connects students to organizations to gain practical and real-world hands-on experience under the guidance of a professional team. We are lucky enough that we are NREL's 7th project that they've done with the MENV program, making them the biggest partner that the program has had. A little bit about who we are as individuals. My name is Cass Mendoza. I'm currently studying in the Natural Resource Policy specialization with a secondary specialization in sustainable food systems. Before this, I got my bachelor's in geography and mostly have a background in food service, education, and communications. After I graduate next year, I'm mostly interested in careers around international development, food policy, as well as sustainability-focused communications.
And my name is Peyton Furr. I'm also studying natural resource policy. My secondary is in renewable and sustainable energy systems. My education background goes back to a bachelor's in English and political science from CU Boulder. And I have a professional background with internships in policy with the executive internship with the Office of the Governor, project design with Dominion Energy up outside DC area, working with data centers, and then an extensive history with customer service. I'm very interested in the intersection of policy and the clean energy transition, which kind of led me to this project on how multifaceted the clean energy transition really looks today. And because hydrogen was a newer energy source that I was pretty interested by. So, yeah.
Bali Chandra, and I'm currently pursuing my master's in renewable and sustainable energy with another specialization in corporate sustainability. I'm passionate about corporate sustainability, and I'm interested in clean energy technologies as well as their solutions. And I have a background in mechanical engineering and design. And I will walk you through the purpose of our project and why we took this on. So we basically undertook this project in collaboration with New Day Hydrogen. And New Day Hydrogen is set to develop 3 fueling stations in Denver, Fort Collins, and Pueblo. New Day Hydrogen wanted to ensure that the sites for their fueling stations were developed with a clear purpose, which was to make sure the communities, especially those along the I-25 corridor, um, were fully informed, empowered, and heard when it came to the uh, the future infrastructure development of their area. So our goals going into this project was to gauge the public perception around hydrogen fuel and to educate people on what it is, how it works, and why it matters. Next, we wanted to identify the real obstacles that are preventing the installation of hydrogen fueling stations in these areas. Um, and then we wanted to create a safe space for open dialogue where community members could come and voice their opinions and ask questions directly to industry experts. And lastly, we wanted to lay down the groundwork for safe, equitable deployment of hydrogen infrastructure to help support the growth of the clean energy market. So we focused mainly on ensuring that the community members on the I-25 corridor were educated on the development of hydrogen infrastructure and what this meant for them. And this is an important aspect of our project because historically this region has been bearing the brunt of environmental testing. Um, um, Testing and industrial experimentation. And this is often done without proper transparency, consent, or benefit. Many residents have been treated like test subjects rather than informed partners, and this history matters, and that's why we approach this project differently. Our commitment throughout this project was to educate and not persuade, and we worked on ensuring that the residents understood that the hydrogen fueling stations were not like the past projects that they were subjected to, and that they were clean, quiet, and non-toxic and designed with strict safety standards. So this wasn't just about pushing a new technology on them, but rather it was about building trust and ensuring equity and inviting the community to help shape the future of transportation in their region. Um, so that was a little bit about our project purpose and why we took this on. Next, I'll be talking a little bit about our methodology. Uh, so for our methodology, we began by identifying and engaging with key community stakeholders, and we did this by mapping out local leaders, organizations, and residents who could influence or be impacted by the development of hydrogen projects. And this step helped us understand the social landscape and determine where our outreach would have the biggest impacts. Next, we partnered with groups like UCAN that provide us with trusted community connections and helped us identify local spaces and events where residents felt comfortable and engaged. And through these partnerships, we were able to meet people where they were, which were in familiar community-centered settings. Then from there, we began canvassing communities, and we did this by using custom outreach materials, which included flyers, pamphlets, and visual aids. And we introduced the residents to hydrogen fueling technology and addressed common questions and concerns that they had about safety. So to make sure that every voice was heard, we developed and distributed questionnaires both online and offline at community events, which allowed us to capture a diverse range of first-hand perspectives. And some people were enthusiastic, and some had concerns and uncertainties. And a major milestone of this project was the public forum that we held on August 2nd. And the intention of this event was to bring residents together with industry experts and give them an opportunity to ask questions directly and learn more about the potential of hydrogen in their community. And this was the goal, but I just want to make it clear that we did not receive a large turnout for this. And this is kind of understandable as it can be challenging to get people to attend an event on a Saturday morning without too many incentives. And finally, throughout all of this, we connected with professionals across different sectors, including technology, policy, and communications. And this helped us strengthen our understanding and ensure that her approach remained accurate, inclusive, and effective. And yeah, through these steps, we were able to build a strong foundation of community trust and gather meaningful feedback. Next, moving on to our deliverables, Cass will walk you through some of the tangible outcomes that resulted from all of these efforts.
Yeah, so this semester, this fall, we've been working on our deliverables that we'll be turning over to NREL, including our outreach guide and the case study specific to our time in North Denver, which will include the questionnaire results. A little bit more about the outreach guide. This guide was designed to be a broad and generic overview on how to deploy any sort of outreach related to hydrogen fueling. The idea is that this has an ability to be deployed anywhere in the country. We discuss how to build trust with communities, connect with local leaders, and engage rather than persuade. The guide also includes templates to some of our materials, like pamphlets and coloring sheets that we designed. We also include additional ideas of more engaging materials to attract a wider range of individuals. The case study is more specific to our experience engaging with communities around North Denver, Thornton, and Commerce City, where New Day Hydrogen has been exploring for their fueling sites to serve the Denver area. If you look at the map on the left-hand side, it's showing where we got questionnaire responses from, a total of 42 zip codes throughout the state, which is really helpful for New Day Hydrogen as they continue to deploy throughout the future. That bright red zip code is actually Commerce City, which is where we did the majority of our outreach and we got the largest number of questionnaire responses from. The one right beneath it, which is kind of a cream color, is the 80216 area code, showing that we were effective in our outreach in targeting those communities as well. The case study will also feature the methodology and processes behind our key takeaways and recommendations that were based off of feedback received during our engagement. So you'll get a little bit more into the thought process as to how we reached our recommendations.
Then, yeah, going into some of the key takeaways from our project and our outreach. Surrounding around community engagement, what we really thrived on was the partner with local groups, especially UCAN and Armando Payan in that area. This helped us reach underrepresented communities in that 80216 zip code, as well as building local credibility. We also worked with Commerce City to attend some of those events as well, which was huge. And then also more hands-on hydrogen activities that make hydrogen a little bit more approachable. We saw an uptick in engagement when we brought actually a little hydrogen fuel cell vehicle remote control car to the table, as well as coloring sheets. It just showed a little bit more uptake and made it a little bit less, I guess, scientific and more approachable for the general public. As for education and communication, we found using plain language messaging as well as comparisons were the best way to communicate this new technology to the public. We also wanted to emphasize going back on, it's not necessarily a new technology, it's new to this area. There's established markets elsewhere internationally and domestically. And then we also wanted to look at like the evolution of it, like green hydrogen and how that is renewable. And, everybody seems to be very, very eco-friendly, especially here on the Front Range. And people were very receptive to that messaging. As for the safety and technical messaging, safety was by far the public's biggest concern. So we used NFPA2, the Hydrogen Technology Code, to explain how storage and fueling are regulated and safe, and also how New Day hydrogen stations will meet these standards and demonstrations as well of our hydrogen vehicles. So we had like the Toyota Mirai at our public forum. We had a video of the Pikes Peak climb where one of the competitors used a hydrogen fuel cell car, as well as just having that toy car at the table definitely brought about some good receptive feedback. Go next. And as for the project management process we used, we created a stakeholder database, a massive spreadsheet of all the professionals that we reached out to, as well as the events we attended, so that we can pass this on to NREL and New Day to continue this project, and also to make hydrogen, I guess, implementation a little bit more streamlined. And also, we want to ensure organized coordination between groups. So reaching back out, it will be a little bit easier now that it's not just kind of a cold call, it's familiar faces, familiar names. As for lessons learned, proactive safety messaging really matters, and addressing fears before they're raised, getting ahead of that curve is quintessential. And then communication must also adapt to the audience. So, for instance, a lot of our imagery centered around cars because of that I-76, I-70, I-25 corridor. Whereas if you're building a pipeline, the imagery might be something different. And then also building trust through transparency and consistency. We definitely saw some familiar faces that might not have felt too comfortable coming up with us at the first event, but they were more comfortable coming up to us after we showed up at the second or third event. So showing up, being consistent, being there, and being transparent with your answers was huge. And also moving forward, scaling vehicles with the infrastructure is definitely going to be key to for hydrogen to be successful here. That's why Colorado Colorado Hydrogen Network is huge at bringing together all the business leaders, and we want to bring it together with the public with our project. And then as for recommendations going forward, site selection and fueling sites designs will bring it from theory to more of a concept. So New Day Hydrogen didn't have an exact site selected yet there in the Denver area, and we truly believe NIMBYism is a huge thing. It might have gotten a little bit more reaction and maybe more participation if there was a selected site. Also providing multilingual materials, expanding to digital outreach channels just to broaden the reach, and also offering more participation incentives. Like Shafali had mentioned with the forum, we didn't have a set incentive, so maybe incentivizing some more feedback. And then also strengthening community partnerships, again, working with nonprofits, businesses, local governments, advocacy groups, that sort of stuff will definitely drive this forward. And ultimately, our outreach showed that hydrogen acceptance depends as much on communication and trust as it does on the technology itself. So, connecting that technical information to community experience wanted to help bridge that gap between innovation and public understanding. Next slide. And a few things from our project highlights. One of the biggest highlights from the project was seeing firsthand how research and development connects to real world deployment. Research and development is essential, but the collaboration with private industry partners like New Day Hydrogen allows these innovations to scale upward and make an impact on these communities. And visiting NREL's South Table Mountain campus and the Flatirons research site really brought this to life. Seeing these new technologies and safety systems up close helped our team move beyond theory. It gave us a context and confidence to explain these systems clearly to the public instead of describing hydrogen in abstract terms. We could reference what we saw in person, storage systems, fueling setups, and the strict safety measures that had guided them. And that direct exposure made our outreach more credible and grounded. And finally, engaging with the general public was another huge highlight. People were genuinely curious and open minded about new clean energy technologies. And whether it was the parents at the community events or professionals at our forum, we saw a strong appetite for information and willingness to learn about hydrogen's potential role in Colorado's clean energy transition. Overall, this experience reinforced how powerful it is when research, private enterprise, and community outreach intersect. And it's not just about developing a new technology, it's about making it visible, understandable, and trusted by all the people that will live alongside with it. And then, yeah, just want to say thank you and acknowledge NREL's hydrogen safety research and development team, Genevieve, Bill, and Olivia, as well as New Day Hydrogen, Buford, and Seth, and the forum participants. We had Matt Nadel, a local environmental lawyer, Ernie Anderson, a fire chief up in the Thornton area, Jim Corboy, an advisor, and Armando Payan, our local leader, as well as the MENV, our advisor, Brian, and the MENV director of the capstone program, Alice.
Well, fantastic. This is such a great presentation and really appreciative that we've got you all doing this to try to get some inroads into the community in Denver, give some assurances. And, this area, for those of you that know Denver, is where the National Western site is just north of the Coliseum, just off of I-70 there, where the CSU Spur campus is. And that poor neighborhood, that area back hundreds of years ago was, or 100 years ago was an area where a lot of mining, smelting was done. It's just been subjected to so many things. So this is really great that New Day and CU and NREL has taken the interest to try to work with the community there to make sure that they're not subjected to more of what has been in the past. So why don't we take a few minutes for some questions? Does anybody online have a question? Oh, Elliot's got his hand up. Go ahead, Elliot.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your presentation. It was very well put together, and certainly I'm glad to see that University of Colorado is involved, in this aspect of the field that we're involved with. And my interest is keen, of course, as a lot of you know, we're trying to put together our own project out there out by the airport, and some good things are happening for us right now. In spite of the political environment, we've had to do some pivots, and we're really excited about it. But this type of report will benefit not only us here locally in Colorado, but also, as you'd mentioned, it has scalability into other markets. And I look forward to seeing your results on that, and would love to connect with you guys and support in any way we can, and learn from what you're putting together. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Elliot. And you just brought up a really good point, and that is the report. We can maybe take this offline, but I would be happy to put this report on the CHN website if that's appropriate, or make it available to people. I don't know if you have a like a completed report of any kind, but let me know if you do, and I'm certainly happy to make that available to folks if that's appropriate.
Yeah, I think we're still in our completing our final draft right now, but once we have one completed, I'll make sure that it gets to you.
Okay, that'd be great. And then I can just post that on the website, and people can download that as necessary. All right. Well, thanks for your question, Elliot. Other questions? Don't be shy. All right. Well, won't belabor that. Again,
Wait.
Pat,
Yeah.
sorry, do you have one, Elliot?
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My interest was this, is that how do you feel? This is directed at, I guess, the one of the students there, the graduate students. How do you feel what do you think it's gonna take to get more engagement from the community in this type of projects? This is of keen interest to us, and we're gonna need to step out there at some point here soon too, and explore those type of concerns and issues in the community, founded or unfounded. And what is your thought process of what will it take to gain for a larger audience?
I think, as I mentioned in one of the last slides, selecting the site is definitely what I presume that will be one of the biggest things, just because when we talk about a lot of NIMBYism, not in my backyard, working with Dominion Energy, especially, I learned like transmission lines, nobody really cares about transmission lines until they're like, oh, we want to put it through your property, or it affects your pocketbook. So I definitely see that being, I don't know if y'all have an exact site selected just yet for the station. You said it was going to be out towards the airport.
Well, we're in discussions with some people, but we're it's a larger site. It involves, uh, I guess, just to let it a little bit out. We're involved with developing a convenience setup with healthy foods and clean fuels type of concept. So it's a little larger scale, but somewhere very close to the airport. On the major corridors right there in that area. So that's about as far as I can say about that. But it is, you've got three communities here. So you've got Adams County, you've got the city of Denver, you've got the airport authority, of course, which is part of the city of Denver, and then you've got Aurora, and they're all blending right in that same area. The major population area that's close to that is Aurora. So there's a mix, a lot of business community. That's one of the reasons why we targeted that area, and a lot of heavy traffic. So but yeah, that's kind of the ballpark of what we're looking at. So, and we
Yes,
love, I'll tell
sites.
you what, to be on, and everybody knows this, but we love Buford and Seth. They've done a great job, and they've represented our industry very well here in Colorado. And I love working with them. I'm going to be meeting with them tomorrow. So, this will all be a part of my topic with them too. Then
Yeah,
I'm putting my
no,
email up in the chat here.
yeah, site selection and then zoning along with that definitely seem like the biggest obstacles that we've seen.
Right.
The general feedback that we got back from the public were good. They're like, yeah, anything. We don't want to hear the noise. Again, we said, these vehicles aren't loud. They don't produce smog. A lot of people in that corridor are sick and tired of the semi trucks coming through there. So the general public's all about it. It's just, I think, getting the zoning and site selection is going to be the biggest issue.
Right. I think that, yeah, that's the critical factor there. Um, the one thing about that corridor is that those trucks aren't going to go away. Hopefully quieter, and that's the nice thing about hydrogen. It is quite a bit quieter. So, and that's exciting as well. So, thank you. Appreciate it very
Of course.
much. I
Okay.
just put my
Thank you for the
information
questions.
up in the chat.
All right. Thanks, Elliot. I think we're just about going to wrap this, but want to give anybody else opportunity to ask a question if they have one?
Brian, Bill Leedy, can you hear me?
Yeah, Bill, go ahead. Bill's up in Juneau, Alaska.
I came in late, so I'm not sure of the context whether it relates to infrastructure safety exclusively, but I keyed on public acceptance or something like that. Credibility, credibility. How do you deal with the lack of credibility established in California by the attempt to roll out a hydrogen economy for all sizes of vehicles, and both the supply and demand were missing.
Yeah, and Bill, you're referring to the fact that hydrogen's horribly expensive up there, and
Well,
there's been
it just didn't succeed. Public acceptance was not high by the consumers, nor was it by the suppliers.
yeah, part of that has to do with the fuel stations were not always functional, and yeah, it's unfortunate. California has really given hydrogen fueling a bad name, in spite of putting up a lot of stations initially. So I don't know, Cass or Peyton or Shafali, do you have any comments on that? You may not. I don't know.
I would say we definitely were asked kind of about the cost. The thing that kind of benefited us is we weren't trying to push anyone to purchase a hydrogen vehicle. We were simply there to educate them about hydrogen as a fueling source and see what they know about it. I think also in terms of like supply issues in California, we did get those questions a lot, and luckily New Day Hydrogen will be synthesizing on site. And so that did help also kind of alleviate that anxiety.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe Colorado will succeed where California did not, and you will become the new poster child.
We're going to plan on that, Bill. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for all your time and effort put into this. I think it really does help move things forward. And yes, applause in Colorado. And I think it also sets a little bit of a model that other folks can use. I know we've got some people out on the call from the East Coast and so forth. Maybe this is a good lesson learned that it's not all about just the technical or even the business aspects. There's a social aspect as well, and we've got to be mindful of that. All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and move on with the rest of what I had to present today, which is some technical stuff, some other things. I had a few announcements, a little bit different than what we normally do. I was asked to be the guest on a podcast recently. The podcast is called Green Giants Titans of Renewable Energy, and I was on the October 10th episode. And I really encourage everybody to listen to this. There's two versions. There's an audio, so you can listen to that in the car or whatever you're doing, biking, running, or whatever. And then there's also a YouTube version, which is exactly the same. It's just you get to see my lovely face there. But I really put a lot of effort into this. I spent days and days and days on a script, and the host, Wes Ashworth, also put a lot into it. And this really came off very good. I'm sort of maybe boast a little bit here, but we've talked a lot about just renewable energy in general and what we need to deploy it. talked about misconceptions that a lot of times you see from other environmental people that maybe don't understand what a lot of the different renewable energies are about. And I think this is a great source to refer to other people who are maybe hydrogen skeptics or novices. The podcast is about 45 minutes long, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. And I also would suggest that you might check out some of the other Green Giants podcasts. They're really good, and there's been some pretty big dogs on here. There was a presidential advisor that I think he was advisor to Obama that was on. So I'm in some kind of prestigious company here. But check that out. If you use the QR codes here, this is something new I'm trying out. That'll take you either right to Apple Podcasts or to YouTube. So uh, talk just another second or two, give you a chance to maybe capture that with your phone. Or I'll put these slides on the website as well, so you can go to that, or just search Green Giants. You'll find it. All right. I just became aware of a new, I think it's relatively new website about geologic hydrogen.
Uh,
Um, the Association of Geological H2.org. And so I just wanted to point this out. Some of you may want to just take a quick look at that and maybe bookmark that. I've got some communication into them. I want to try to link CHN with what they're doing so that we can collaborate a little bit, maybe help with some of their projects or whatever, and make sure that they're aware of what we're doing here. Another little bit of news here is that Gold Hydrogen has changed their name to Eclipse Energy. And I'll be with Abby Brooks, their business development person up in Boulder. Actually, she's going to be one of the members of the panel that I'll be leading. But I know there's another company in Australia that named themselves Gold H2 or Gold Hydrogen. And so that may be the genesis of changing their name. But just wanted to make you all aware of that. Not that all of you are going on there all the time to look at their website. By the way, what Gold Hydrogen does is they inject microbes into old oil reservoirs to bring up clean hydrogen. It's absolutely clean. There's no methane. There's no carbon to be sequestered. So a very, very important geologic hydrogen technology. All right. So the other thing I wanted to do today was there was a few things in the news that kind of caught my eye, and I thought it'd be interesting to just do a little what I call tech talk about some things like direct solar to hydrogen. That's basically some people have called it the solar leaf. So there's no electrolyzer involved. It's all part of the system, and I'll explain that here in a minute. Also wanted to just compare stationary energy storage. There's some news about some new battery. This is basically utility scale batteries, not really for automobiles. And just compare that with hydrogen, just so we all have kind of an image in our mind of where some of these technologies lie as far as cost and efficiency and those other things. And then there was some interesting news about drilling technology that's as in drilling into the ground. And so we'll talk about that. So the news articles, Sun Hydrogen announced that they've got some milestones on their direct solar to hydrogen pilot system that are going on with the University of Texas. Peak Energy, which is actually a company here they're located in two places, California and Colorado, up in Loveland. And they've got a sodium iron pyrophosphate battery. And that is really interesting. And I want to compare that with using hydrogen for storage. And then Quays Engineering is the company that's got a non-contact drill. It's basically using microwaves to do boring into solid granite. And they did a demonstration. 387 feet isn't a lot, obviously, if we're talking about going a mile down, but this is at least proof of the technology on how that works. And we'll talk about that and explain the technical parts of that here in just a minute. So, Sun Hydrogen. Well, this is actually kind of near and dear to my heart because one of the first things that got me interested in hydrogen was a news announcement back in 2006 at MIT. Daniel Nocera there was developing something called the hydrogen leaf, which is to directly convert water and sunlight into hydrogen. And I've always puzzled over this a little bit because, well, we'll talk about the reasons for that. Now, when you look at these pictures, I tried to find some better pictures. What I don't like about these is they don't show how the water comes into this system, and they also don't show how you keep the oxygen and the hydrogen separated. So um, I couldn't find any better pictures, but I think we all get the idea that you've got some semiconductors, some other things that directly convert the sunlight into hydrogen and oxygen. So, the first thing you got to think about is, well, we've got water in this panel and you're putting the panel outside. What about freezing? Well, they've demonstrated that it works in sub-freezing temperatures. And I don't know how they do it. I haven't found that out. So I kind of leave that maybe as a question we all need to kind of puzzle about. But here's the team. Obviously, they're huddled a little bit. It looks pretty chilly there in Iowa. Um, but I also kind of wondered about how much land does this take? Because if you are doing this, it's kind of implied that you want to do this at the point of use. And I wondered, how efficient is it, and how could you do that? So the energy per area, basically the kilograms of hydrogen that are coming out per area, if we just do a little calculation here, the panels produce 0.01 kilograms per square meter per hour under more or less ideal sunlight conditions. And if we just assume 7 hours per day, 365 days of the year, and here's how I get 7 hours a day. In the summertime, that's the green curve. The 50% point of the sun is basically about 9 hours. That's that red bar there. And then in the wintertime, you're only going to get about 5 hours at the 50% point. So that was kind of arbitrarily chosen, but obviously you're not going to get sun all day long, and it can get pretty weak on the bottom skirt of this curve. But just kind of using that as just kind of a point in the sand, or a line in the sand, I guess we could say that the average daily output per square meter is probably about 0.07 kilograms. So, for example, for a 200 kilogram a day fuel station, which is maybe kind of average, not a real big one. It's certainly not a big fuel station along the interstate or something like that. But that would take 200 kilograms divided by 0.07 kilograms, about 2,747 square meters, or that's about half an acre. So to me, the takeaway is that the area required is probably too big for most on-site generation. And so your best bet is probably going to be to have a big array of these panels somewhere and then transport the hydrogen. So that begs the question, well, is it cheaper to move the energy as electricity instead of as hydrogen? And so here's what I mean by that. So if we have a solar to hydrogen panel, um, the goal that's talked about from Sun Hydrogen is that would cost about $2.50 a kilogram to do that. And you're going to have to either compress it and store it in a tank, or pull it out of the tank, run it through a compressor, and put it into a truck of some kind of a tanker truck. And my back of the envelope kind of guess at that is that the capital expense on that is probably going to hit you at about 60 cents a kilogram. And I won't go into all the assumptions there of what I thought the lifetime of the equipment was and everything else. And then the energy to run it is the operating expense, probably another 17 cents per kilogram. A truck, and this is the cost of the vehicle amortized over some period of time, the tires, the oil, the driver, the insurance, and all that. My swag on that is probably about $1.70 a kilogram to run it 50 to 100 miles. The distance doesn't matter that much is on the cost. So you add all that together, the 250, which is what's Sun Hydrogen thinks that they can sell that for at the panel itself, and these other expenses add up to about $4.97 a kilogram at this point. Now, you still have to do other things with this, but we'll just stop it there because this is where I'm going to compare with just using solar panel, putting the power on the electric grid, and then running that into an electrolyzer. And what does that cost? Well, we've got some pretty good numbers here. We've got actual rates from Excel, and these incorporate the demand charges and the other expenses that Excel puts on for electricity. It's not just the kilowatt hour charge. And then an electrolyzer, I'm using 50 kilowatt hours per kilogram as that efficiency. So that only comes to about $3.90. So that's, a dollar a kilogram less than doing this solar directly to hydrogen. So my point here is I could have some numbers wrong, but I really kind of struggle to see the advantage to doing it this way. So I don't know. Sun hydrogen could possibly enlighten me on that, but that's my thought, and that's kind of just the stake I'm driving in the ground on this. All right, so let's see, what have I got next? All right, so that's probably enough said there. So as I said, I saw some news articles about batteries, basically utility scale stationary batteries, and wanted to talk about that a little bit. So the real news article that I saw was about these sodium iron pyrophosphate batteries, which I hadn't really heard too much about before. And then I already knew about the iron air batteries that are out there and wanted to compare those two with using hydrogen for energy storage. Let's do a little arm wrestle here. Which one wins? So with the sodium iron pyrophosphate batteries, basically what those are is a type of sodium iron battery that is pretty stable, uses sodium ion or sodium as the cathode material. And it's really suitable for grid energy storage. The advantages are it's high safety, it resists thermal runaway, pretty wide operating temperature, wider certainly than lithium ion. Then it also is capable of thousands of discharge cycles, and you can take it down to zero without damages. As a matter of fact, one of the advantages they talk about is you can ship these batteries fully discharged, so they're a lot safer to ship. And of course, sodium and iron are pretty earth friend, available elements, and so there's not a lot of cost with that. One of the disadvantages, though, it's got a shorter lifespan than lithium ion, so possibly an issue. To compare that to iron air batteries, the way those work is basically around rust. Oxygen from the air reacts with iron, and that generates an electric current. And basically the iron is oxidized in a two-step process, which releases the electricity. And to charge, you basically reverse that process and you kind of regenerate the metallic iron. So advantages to those, they're really cheap, about 10% the cost of lithium ion, no risk of thermal runaway. They can store energy a fairly long period of time, 100 hours, even more than that, and pretty long lifespan, so they might last 30 years. Disadvantage is their discharge rate. Now, I don't know if many of you have looked at batteries, but the C rating is basically a ratio of the amount of energy you can withdraw from a battery based on or divided by its energy content. So if you discharge it at 1 amp and it's a 1 amp hour battery, the C rating would be 1, and that's per hour basically. And efficiency, they're kind of inefficient. I'll talk about the efficiency here in just a moment and compare that with some of the other technologies. And apparently some of the earlier versions had a short cycle life, and I think that's being improved. So operating range, not quite as broad as a sodium, but 32 degrees to 104, which probably for a stationary application is not too big a deal. All right, so hydrogen, on the other hand, has a really wide operating temperature range, extremely long storage time. I mean, basically, it could be about forever if your tank doesn't leak. But the disadvantage is high capital cost for I'm calling it an electrolyzer fuel cell. So that would be an electrolyzer that can be reversed to be a fuel cell as well, and the compressor and the high pressure tanks. All right, so to compare all three, the cost difference, including the balance of plant. So for the sodium, that's about 150 to $300 per kilowatt hour. Whoops, I got things out of whack here. Iron air is a lot cheaper. Compare that to lithium ion, all about the same as the sodium. And then hydrogen is way up there, obviously, because of the compressor and the tanks and the electrolyzer and so forth. So the round trip efficiency, the sodium's about 80%, lithium's probably in the same range, 70 to 80%, iron air, 50%, and hydrogen's probably about 50%. So that kind of gives us an idea where these three technologies stand in case it comes up in a conversation. You just kind of want to have a gut feel for where some of these things are. So takeaway here is probably that between the sodium and the lithium ion is probably the the choices. I know a lot of utilities, though, are looking at the iron air. So there may be some other extenuating circumstances that I didn't really cover here. All right, switching gears to talk about geothermal energy. Now, this doesn't really have that much to do with hydrogen, but I think the drilling technology could. So I love this graphic. I just wanted to be able to use it, but kind of cool, just showing that basically what you're trying to do is sink a well that gets down to the hot rock that you can use for generating energy. So, Quay's Energy had some recent news articles or milestones, I guess we could say, with their radical approach to drilling. And maybe I'll just talk to this graphic here for a minute. So they got a device called the gyrotron, and if you just think of your microwave oven, the Klystron or whatever the solid state version is that we have these days, generates microwaves. And they send the microwaves down a waveguide, and the millimeter waves basically melt the rock. And then they've got a purge gas to bring those gases and things back up out of the well. So what they do though is they first use some kind of conventional drilling to get down to what the geologists call basement rock, the really hard, very deep rock. And then they switch over to using this really high power millimeter waves to, they think they can reach really unprecedented depths with this because it's not mechanical. So here's some examples. You can see some of the pieces of granite that they've basically melted holes through. So I thought kind of an interesting technology. I think that this could also have uses in possibly natural hydrogen drilling. I don't know. I haven't seen that specified anywhere, but it's definitely a possibility. So they, like I said, there was this milestone. They had this test in Texas and showed the ability to drill 387 feet. I don't know if they just stopped at that point or something went wrong. It didn't say, but they considered this really kind of a milestone. So um, that is all that I have for our meeting today. How are we doing on time? Just about at the 5:30 mark, but I want to encourage if anybody's got any comments or questions on any of this or anything else, we got a couple of minutes left at least, and I'm willing to go past the half hour if anybody would like. Maybe you've thought of some more questions for the students as well. I see we've got a few of those still on.
Brian, Bill here.
Yeah, Bill.
A fellow named Trenton Cladouis is a key person with Quays, the company that's trying to bore deeper, deep enough, cheap enough using ultra short microwaves to do that. And he joined me on a joint conference presentation we did last year. And I've got that someplace in my email catalog or my video catalog. I'll try to find it and put it in the question. But he, of course, is very keen on the ability to do this. The problems are getting the mass of rock out of the hole after you've vaporized it, and then boring sideways to build the heat exchanger and advanced geothermal systems. I'll see if I can find that video for you. Thank you.
Yeah, Bill, do you know if they believe this is appropriate or applicable to horizontal drilling at all?
I don't know that. I can't
Mhm.
imagine how they're going to bend the waveguide down there and continue the waveguide because they rely on that to deliver their energy at the aperture, the delivery aperture from the waveguide, I think. I can't speak for them.
Yeah, well, there's different kinds of waveguides. Typically, they're a hollow pipe, so you're basically sending that radio energy, if you want to call it that, down the pipe. Um,
Yes.
there are fiber optic, but I would think you're going to melt your fiber optic probably with this. I don't know, but I guess that's a question. We'll have to look at that further. But you're absolutely right. I mean, just sinking a vertical shaft isn't enough. You've got to have some kind of a loop or some horizontal things to act as heat exchangers to try to bring that heat up. So,
You either have to frack, and then you've got parasitic pumping losses, or you've got to do as Ever does and bore the heat exchanger,
yeah,
and that takes time and money.
yeah. Well, maybe they can use standard drilling once they get down. I don't know. We're speculating, I guess. But Elliot's got his hand up. Have you got a comment on that, Elliot?
Well, I just have a question. It's an intriguing process. What do they do with of the? Did they just move it out just like you would drill a well, bring in the particles up hole, or what?
I believe you'll find at the website that they say they will bring it out with the gas that's associated
Okay,
with the whole process. So it'll come out
okay,
as smoke or
Mhm.
uh, particles in compressed gas of some kind.
some type of okay. So and then they'd have to figure out storage of it or transport of it or disposal of it and all that kind of process too, huh?
I think so.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
real
Try
interesting process though, huh?
yeah,
try their website.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm going to. There you go. Thank you.
Well, I want to make everybody aware of these different technologies, and I believe, as Bill does, that geothermal has huge potential. I mean, I think people expect the capital costs to be down around what solar and wind are, but it obviously produces 24/7, so you don't need storage. So, at any rate, we'll see. And you go deep enough, you can get this heat anywhere on the planet. So. All right. Any other happy to keep going if anybody else has got comments or questions. Going once, going twice.
Brian, that was a very good presentation. The folks at CU put together.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, thank you to everybody at CU and NREL and uh, I don't think Buford or Seth are on, but I also want to
No,
thank New Day because I know that this wasn't the first time they've had community meetings down there in that neighborhood, and it's absolutely the right thing to do. So, all
very,
right.
very
Well,
insightful.
yeah, so I think on that note, we will go ahead and adjourn. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you online next month.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
You bet.